you like a superhero? Like the gold devil?
I'm Daredevil.
How did we end up here, my Marvel fans? I am in utter shock right now. Tony Stark got kidnapped and built an Iron Man suit in a cave with a box of scraps, and decades later, She-Hulk sex tape is leaked. Brilliant! She-Hulk episode 8 has been released, and this is finally the Daredevil episode a lot of people have been looking forward to, and I think it was worth the wait, y'all. That was a fantastic freaking episode. Like, this whole time, everything from 7 to 1, I was saying, I like it. It's decent. It's watchable. But this was a gold standard. This was like the first episode of the entire season. I was like, I don't want it to end. I don't want this episode to end. Keep it going. Keep going. Even after Daredevil left, I still wanted more stuff happening. Nah, guys, thank freaking goodness. Even though it looks like next episode they're gonna do the thing I've been fearing, which is not reveal the big bad guy, the twist, the motive, jam-pack that all into one episode. This episode right here brought it up a letter grade for me, and there's so many things to love about this thing. So we're definitely going to dive into this. This is going to be my spoiler review, giving you my full breakdown, pointing out some Easter eggs you might have missed, but I want to hear from you Daredevil fans, especially for you guys who have been hating the show. Did this episode work for you? I think even if you take out the Daredevil stuff, it goes back to being one of the decent episodes that we have gotten all throughout the season, but I'm not going to deny it, man. Daredevil in here and what Charlie Cox brings to that role, it just elevated everything, and I was grinning ear to ear. But episode 8 of She-Hulk opens up with a character that some of us have been curious to see from the trailers, and that is Leapfrog. He's just a wannabe superhero trying to stop these thugs from stealing a TV, and in the process of him trying to stop them, his suit malfunctions, bringing us to Jennifer Walters' office. And I'm gonna pause you right there and say, that is what every episode needed to be, okay? I don't mind the episodes where it's just Jennifer Walters focusing in on her story and growing that character development. That's great. But this is episode 8, and we're finally getting an interesting superhero lawyer case. I know it's an outdated formula, but I was really hoping this show was going to be more like Law and Order, because the beginning of this gave me vibes of what you would see in those episodes, where it's just like some random stranger walking in Central Park and there's a dead body there, and thus we begin the case. This is the vibe I got here. We start off with a crime happening, there's the client, and then we get the context of the case, which is him wanting to sue the manufacturer of his suit, which happens to be the same person that She-Hulk gets her suits from. Also, as this is going on and we're seeing Jennifer Walters, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the CG got really improved in this episode, at least on Jennifer Walters' face. It doesn't look as smooth and blurry as it has on earlier episodes. Like, I can actually see some detail increases, that this doesn't look sort of like an uncanny valley face. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like the VFX here were improved than what we've seen in other episodes. Here, though, the boss mentions that, well, Leapfrog's father is a very wealthy and important client, so she needs to help him out, whether it's a conflict of interest or not, because she gets her suits made by the same tailor. This was a small Easter egg in there because in the comics, Leapfrog also does have a dad. It was Leapfrog that was actually the father and a supervillain, and then Frogman was the son trying to be a wannabe superhero. But moving us forward into the court case, since it was established a couple episodes ago that this tailor actually works with Daredevil having his helmet, it made sense that when he's being sued, he would call the only lawyer he knows, giving us a great introduction to Matt Murdock. And I just got such a joy from seeing Charlie Cox pop up in here, and for once, the writers of this show actually made me believe they understood a little bit about what it's like being a lawyer, because the jargon that goes on between Jennifer Walters and Matt Murdock arguing about this case, it actually sounds pretty legit. It doesn't at all sound made up or stretched to the truth like a lot of the cases that were happening early on in the season. Like, this actually felt grounded. And that might just be with the demeanor Charlie Cox has, because he has nailed this role as Matt Murdock, and the way he's just spewing this words and countering Jennifer Walters. They didn't nerf the guy. Everyone thinks that the She-Hulk show hates men and that they're trying to push this agenda that women rule and men suck, when really, if you've been paying attention to the show, you see that's not happening. There's good men and there's some bad men, just like with everything. And here, just because the show is called She-Hulk, they're not gonna make Matt Murdock look like a bad lawyer, and he actually beats Jennifer. I even like the little moment when Matt Murdock says, "Oh, he's lying. Don't ask me how I know." I know some people were really afraid they were gonna turn him into a complete buffoon and just have him joking every second, but every little quip or small joke that Daredevil made in here felt very much in line with his character. He's a charismatic guy. He's a cocky guy. This fits perfectly fine with him. And they even expanded on the MCU because in here they say that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed, meaning people don't have to give up their secret identity to be superheroes. That's really awesome for them to mention in here. Also, and I think even the biggest She-Hulk haters are going to agree with me on this, Jennifer Walters and Matt Murdock, they genuinely have chemistry on screen. Like, I felt real tension and actual admiration between these two characters when they were flirting with each other, when they were exchanging their struggles. Like, it actually felt like they had a connection here. And sometimes that could feel very forced. I was afraid it was going to feel very forced, that they were just going to push on this relationship between them, but it was working, and I wanted to see them together. But after that bar interaction between Jennifer and Matt, we see her go meet one of her clients, Todd, that has a very interesting case for Jennifer Walters to handle. And this is, again, some of the stuff I meant that is actually interesting, brings up a unique perspective, and would be a cool lawyer case for Jennifer Walters to actually handle. Like, it's nice to see Jennifer actually be a lawyer and deal with actual cases within the MCU, because Todd right here decided to purchase a Wakandan spear for $1 million, and the people of Wakanda want that back. Todd is arguing, well, he paid for it in an auction, he owns it, he shouldn't have to give it away when he spent $1 million, and then pulls the MCU version of, I have black friends, I support them.
I love Wakanda. You know, I actually studied abroad there. Wakanda forever!
Oh, that makes me uncomfortable.
And I know some people don't find She-Hulk funny, but when she said, that makes me uncomfortable, I laughed. I laughed so hard in my living room. She-Hulk then leaving that situation because it's just not going anywhere, getting a call from her client Leapfrog that he's being attacked and that he needs She-Hulk's help, where she finally decides to put on her super suit. And look, this clip first released online earlier today, and I was kind of pissed that they released it because I'm like, that better not have been the full fight between She-Hulk and Daredevil. Why would you release that ahead of time? But thank goodness it wasn't the full fight, and the thing went on for so much longer, and I really loved every second of it. Because the clip did release online a little early, the internet had a chance to voice their complaints, so I could at least mention what the internet was talking about. And one of the things they were saying is they thought it looked really goofy how much CGI Daredevil was using. In this situation, Daredevil versus She-Hulk, we know She-Hulk isn't an actual thing. Speaking in movie terms, she's just a CGI being, so Charlie Cox is probably on set staring at a ping pong ball or just a floating head of Jennifer Walters. So I don't know why some people expected there to be a practical fight with Daredevil fighting against the air, and then visual effects artists would add in She-Hulk and that would look good. No, you have She-Hulk, who's a CGI character, so Daredevil's gonna look a little CGI when fighting her, and it looked good to me. Some people said it reminded them of Ben Affleck's Daredevil. You know what? I don't think that's a bad thing. I didn't mind the CGI back in the Daredevil Ben Affleck days. The boy is an acrobat. He moves from building to building. Heck, it is in his name. He is Daredevil, the man without fear. He's gonna be doing superhero stuff. She-Hulk also was in here doing a great job, punching the ground, splitting it open. I also think the joke that Daredevil threw in there about my ass remains unwhooped was pretty cute. I don't think it's anywhere near the level of some really bad MCU jokes that we've gotten before. But the fight continued on from there, and I was just loving every second. I did not want this fight to end. I also think it even made sense the way they ended it. They established early on that She-Hulk has this clap power that we all know that would overload the senses of Daredevil enough for She-Hulk to take off his mask. Like, that's actual comic book logic. I don't see how you can fight that. I did find it hilarious though when Jennifer Walters was like accusing him of like, are you pretending to be blind? Because that's actually problematic. Like, the humor in here was landing most of the time, where every other episode I'd laugh like maybe 2 or 3 jokes. Here I'm laughing quite a lot. It's also great to see Matt Murdock finally call himself Daredevil. She even addresses the color change in suit with the mustard. Anybody who's not a fan of this suit, they're gonna change it for his show. This is just what Marvel does. They like at least putting them in the first appearance comic suit at least once. And I didn't mind it. It worked for this episode. But okay, now that Daredevil and She-Hulk are on the same page, they can team up to go rescue the tailor that Leapfrog has kidnapped to repair his suit. I'm loving how the writers are also taking advantage of Daredevil's powers while still not doing too much, so that the people who write Born Again can do a lot more. Like, I didn't know if they were going to show us his sonar vision, but they didn't. But still mentioned that he can hear all the heartbeats of the goons. And even this little speech of Daredevil mentioning the difference between a goon and a henchman, that is so Daredevil. But you know what else was so Daredevil? A freaking hallway fight, just like in the Netflix series. And the boy's a badass. For my people that were complaining that they were using a CGI Daredevil when he's fighting physical humans where they can practice choreography, he ain't gonna be CGI, but he's still gonna look like a badass. Everything about this hallway fight just kind of reassured me that the MCU is gonna handle his solo show really well. There was definitely still better hallway fights in the Netflix show, but this was still a really good one. And even as someone who likes She-Hulk the character, I was kind of pissed when she ruined Daredevil's moment and we didn't get to see him take down all the other goons. At least we do get to see him punch up the rest of the other goons in the lily pad layer. Putting an end to this crime and then having Jennifer Walters and Daredevil have another conversation with each other where he mentions he does want to keep his identity a secret. Jennifer Walters even rebuttals and says he's so brooding, which is what people just want him to be, like he's another Batman. Then they did the thing I didn't think the MCU was gonna do. They had freaking Daredevil and She-Hulk sleep together. Oh, wow. I did not know if that was gonna happen, but my girl Jennifer Walters needed a win, and a good man like Daredevil is exactly what she needed. Now, with all that said, I do think they took it a bit too far when they had Daredevil do the walk of shame. Not that there's anything wrong with doing the walk of shame, but just having Daredevil in this context, in broad daylight, with his suit, shoes off, that's where I'm like, okay, that's as goofy as you're allowed to make Daredevil. Don't you ever cross that threshold again. But it was just a few seconds and I can pass it off as a little laugh. And I honestly thought that was going to be the end of this episode. I didn't think we were going to continue on. But then when Jennifer Walters breaks the fourth wall and is mentioning, oh, we're not over? We're still going? Oh, gotta be teasing the big finale where she gives us two options. A Hulk that's red that shows up in reference to Thunderbolt Ross. That is rumored to be showing up in the Thunderbolts movie. I doubt it's going to be him, but a nice little Easter egg and nod to him. And then she mentions another phrase saying, or am I going to be fridged? Now, for comic book fans that aren't familiar with this term, fridging is something that was coined whenever a Green Lantern comic introduced a love interest just so that she can be stuffed dead in the fridge. Essentially, the term fridging means when you introduce a character and their only purpose is to die or be development for another character. And typically in comic books, it is a female that gets fridged. They're only created just so that they can be pain or motivation for our superheroes. And well, I thought the ending of last week's episode was dark, having She-Hulk photographed while she was naked and unconscious in bed after a man had just weaseled into her life. Oh, it went way deeper than that, and I can't believe the MCU did this. This intelligentsia group that is after She-Hulk and is basically representing all the man babies who can't handle a show that is just average, they flat out say, she stole the Hulk's powers, we need to attack her, and they freaking leak her sex tape. Bro, they did that. Disney Plus just did that. It was also even interesting to see She-Hulk kind of go into this angry Hulk form. I didn't know if that was something in her. In fact, her raging out like this and having that sort of Hulk voice come out of her that is very echoey and growly, that's more than we've seen it come out of Bruce Banner lately. That was frightening to look at. This was a great cliffhanger that actually got me excited for the finale, even though it has all the warning signs that it's gonna disappoint me, just like every other Disney Plus finale that waits till the last episode to reveal and wrap up everything. Why? At the end of the day, though, this was a freaking amazing episode that got me hyped. She-Hulk so far has just been decent. It's been average. And this episode was just everything I could have wanted. I just wish every episode was like that for She-Hulk, but it wasn't. I throw it off to you guys. Do you think the finale is going to satisfy us? What did you think about this? Even if you put the Daredevil stuff aside, did you like it? Be really curious to hear from you guys. Don't be forgetting to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.